Hey, welcome back everyone. We are now getting closer to the official release of the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show on Disney Plus, between of course what Deborah Chow is putting together, as well as Disney and Lucasfilm for the marketing of the series, which by the way, is just going to start in just a couple of days time from now. That's going to include new footage, new promo images, and a lot more to arrive for the Kenobi series. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, we are currently in a very exciting time for Star Wars, given that there are over a dozen projects currently being developed by Disney and Lucasfilm. We have, of course, the Ahsoka series, Mando Season 3 and 4, as well as the Bad Batch Season 2, which, by the way, is having a little bit of trouble with the production. We'll dive into that a little bit more later. But everything related to what Kathleen Kennedy has been going through with the Acolyte TV show and a lot of other aspects of the Star Wars universe is also creating quite a stir behind the scenes between Bob Chapek and what he's doing with John and Dave, as well as George Lucas, as well as what Kathleen Kennedy is trying to achieve with, of course, her side of the Star Wars universe with, of course, writer Leslye Headland. Now, on top of all of that, alright, a lot of fans have been very much intrigued about exactly what's been going on with, of course, Kathleen Kennedy and the trouble that's happening behind the scenes as we speak between herself and the Disney higher-ups of course, that includes Chapek, the Disney CEO. Now, given that there's a lot of things happening with the Acolyte series and a lot of other aspects with writer Leslye Headland, what's really all the more intriguing has a lot to do with the Acolyte TV show in greater depth. Now, given that this series, by the way, takes place at the tail end of the High Republic era, that's another thing to be aware of. So with that being said, with both Disney and Lucasfilm now beginning to work on the Ahsoka Tano TV show for Disney Plus, creators FAVREAU and Filoni are also working on the 4th season of Mando. Now, it's described, however, that currently Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy is currently in tons of trouble with the higher-ups over at Disney for creating yet another setback for the Acolyte TV series. It's described that Kathleen Kennedy recently made some more story changes to the Acolyte show, essentially forcing Leslye Headland to change more important scenes in the script, which is now delaying production for the show. Not just that, but script-wise, of course, which is now in a lot of trouble for Kathleen Kennedy. It's also switching, of course, other directors for some of the planned episodes of the Acolyte TV series, which is also creating problems with production for the show. CEO Bob Chapek is already setting up meetings with the Disney higher-ups on canceling out many possibilities of extending the Acolyte series into a multi-season show as initially promised to Kathleen Kennedy if it were to have succeeded. Now Bob Chapek is putting that all to rest into a complete halt and is no longer allowing Kathleen Kennedy to even have a chance to extend the series at all. Now, that's another thing to be aware of, is that, in case you guys didn't know this, is that originally speaking, Bob Chapek allowed Kathleen Kennedy to give the chance to make the Acolyte TV show into a multi-season TV series if it were to succeed. Now he's actually taking all of that off the table, he's putting that to a stop, and he's not allowing that to happen. And honestly, it's a very smart move on his part because, let's face it, so far the Acolyte series, it's not going well, both on a creative level and on a business level, alright? So they're wasting a lot of money on this show because of all the different setbacks and all the story changes, and even how some of the sets have already been built and deconstructed and built over again. It's only costing Disney tons of revenue on this series because of all the different story changes. And the most recent delay had a lot to do with Kathleen Kennedy, once again, letting go of specific directors and putting new ones on board of the series. Moving on. Now, on top of all of this, alright, with, of course, the Acolyte series now being only one season, and only that it will now be delayed as far as the release date goes, initially Kennedy had hoped to release the Acolyte by April of 2023. Now it's said to be delayed until July of 2023, and maybe even August if more setbacks fall into place with this new show. Now, Chapek is also calling for Kathleen Kennedy to retitle the series, since the story has now changed too much that the title of the show is said to have no relation to the content. Similar in a sense to how The Rise of Skywalker was treated in a sense. So, you guys may recall that The Rise of Skywalker, a lot of fans thought it had something to do with Luke and or Anakin, or a true Skywalker, where in reality, it had nothing to do with that. It just had to do with Rey calling herself a Skywalker. So additionally, the conversation about Kathleen Kennedy's firing by 2023 between Chapek and the board members just got more involved now, and that they are even trying to speed things up a bit with the process by choosing who is willing to become the permanent replacement as fast as possible. Now, Kathleen Kennedy is also described to be pushing for Rian Johnson to become the director for some of the episodes of the Acolyte TV show, which is also causing further tension between both Kennedy and the higher-ups over at Disney. Chapek knows that if Johnson gets involved, that this show will be dead on arrival and have no traction at all when it comes to viewership, let alone acceptance. Kennedy's plan is to use Johnson for the final 3 episodes of the series that is described to have deep ties to the Phantom Menace that will contain retcons toward the prequel trilogy movies as a whole that were created by George Lucas. Something that Lucas himself is said to be very unhappy about right now, to say the least. Chapek is already on edge of releasing the series, however by contract, Kennedy still has the right to release this show no matter what. And here's the problem with this, is that by including Rian Johnson into the final 3 episodes of the Acolyte series, I really do believe that this show is going to be a massive failure. I don't know about you guys, but to me, Rian Johnson's treatment of The Last Jedi really took things way beyond expectations and not in the good sense, in probably the worst scenario possible. And that's just my take on The Last Jedi. You know, I've gone over this several times, and some of you guys out there like The Last Jedi, and listen, that's fine, but there's no denying the fact that the majority of fans dislike Rian Johnson's take on The Last Jedi, and by including him in the Acolyte is probably going to be the biggest mistake on Kathleen Kennedy's part, and the final nail in the coffin when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy, you know, and her take on the Star Wars universe, and how she's trying to pretty much make a name for herself, and it's just not going to work in the long term at all. Now, the thing about Chapek trying to really further, you know, speed up the process of replacing Kathleen Kennedy as the president of Lucasfilm, that's also moving along very smoothly. You know, obviously, even Chapek himself, we talked about this just yesterday, is actually looking for ways to step down as the CEO of Disney faster than usual. That would only mark him down as the CEO essentially for 4 years. He wants to step down around 2024. They're saying it has a lot to do with the fact that, you know, the Disney parks aren't really doing too well right now with the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel and Galaxy's Edge. But in reality, it has a lot more to do with that. It has a lot more to do with what Disney is going through right now in the news, which I'm sure that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But beyond all of that, Kathleen Kennedy does not understand Star Wars. That's a given fact. She obviously does not care about the franchise. That's exactly why she's trying to include Rian Johnson to the Acolyte series as a director for the conclusion of the series. Obviously, that's not a good call on her part, and it's only going to make things worse. It's only going to cause further problems for, of course, her version of Star Wars. So, overall, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.